Okay. So I saw this clip and it just caught my interest. It caught my interest. So actor from Power, Rotimi, he's on a podcast. I don't know what podcast this is, Mr. J Hill. Um, and he was asked a question, and I thought his answer was extremely interesting. And I want to talk about it. So let me play the clip.
And now a higher moment in your life.
Yes.
I'm wondering, what's the hardest part about being Rotimi now?
Oh man, you are good, bro.
Oh, man, thank
you
you.
are
Appreciate it.
really good. The hardest thing about being Rotimi now is dying to my flesh every day. I am Rotimi now, right? And I see everything. I'm still a man. I still have, my flesh is my flesh, but dying to that, bro, carrying my cross every day and saying, yo, like, there's better things if you say no to these things. Killing my flesh daily, bro, is the hardest thing because I know it's the most, it's the most difficult thing that any human can do. Dying to flesh and staying in a straight place, especially when you've experienced so much and everything's at your fingertips. So dying to flesh every day, and you know the flesh knows it can't travel with you, so that's why it's trying to kill you now. I know that. You know, I know now the devil is so slick, and I know how he moved that I'm able to kind of understand what's happening. But yeah, it's still a battle every day, bro. And having the mindfulness to fight through that, you know, knowing that these thoughts are like random clouds that will just fade if you just withstand it. So I've that is probably the hardest thing.
And now a higher.
So, you know, Rotimi, actor, singer. I think it's very interesting what he said. Especially somebody who's in the industry. Who's in Hollywood, who's, you know, in those circles and whatnot, is the fact that he said, you know, that's the hardest part, is dying to your flesh every single day, especially when you've experienced so much. And I think that's the same for a lot of us. Like, although we may not have experienced the level of, you know, wickedness and the level of just sinful activity at our fingertips in the same manner that celebrities experience it, on the same token, we've experienced a lot in our own lives. Just think about your own testimony. Just think about the things that God has brought you out of, that you used to be in bondage to. Just think about the chains that, you know, God has broke in your life. We've experienced a lot. And I think we just have to be reminded of that. We have to be reminded of the fact that all those things that we experienced, the drugs, the alcohol, the lust, the anger, the jealousy, all of it, the love of money, the love of success, idolizing ambition, all of it, it's ultimately all empty. It ultimately all leads to the same place, which is you wanting more. And you have to constantly fill yourself with more of it. And it's a never-ending cycle, because the more you pursue it, the more weary you become, which leads you to want to pursue it even more. I think it's interesting. There was a video from him on a podcast. I think it's this podcast right here. And I don't know what his faith is. I don't necessarily know the extent of his relationship. I know he's still very much in this, you know, secular world of entertainment, but, you know, I think there's something going on with him to where he's starting to wake up and he's starting to realize the truth among a sea of lies that he's in from an entertainment standpoint. But let me play this real fast. This is from the Rory and Mal podcast. Yeah, let me play it.
There's the other side to that street.
Absolutely.
That's definitely the opposite.
He's talking about when, and this is why I want to play this, because he's kind of given a testimony. I don't even really know if he understands what he's doing here. But the testimony that he's talking about is essentially rooted in faith, which is very interesting. And I don't even, I don't know if he fully understands what he's saying. And that's why I said, I don't know what the extent of his relationship with Jesus is, but regardless, I can pull out certain moments of this and we can look at it and we can reflect on it as believers. Anywho, let me play it.
It's a little darker.
It's a little darker, right?
Yeah.
So I'm on this way 6.
He's talking about how he went from Atlanta. Now he is in LA. He went from Atlanta. He got a call from his agent to audition for this show, Power, right? And he said he didn't have any money, but somehow he was able to fly out to LA from Atlanta. And he's essentially in the ghetto of Atlanta, staying at some motel, and he meets this guy. And that's pretty much where the story picks up.
7 miles this way in a I find this cheap motel that's roach infested. It is one of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? I go to the guy. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm a struggling artist, man. I can't afford $60 a night, man. And he was an Indian guy named Bob. And yeah,
I don't know if that checks out.
That's his working name.
Yeah. Touche. Yeah.
Bob.
I don't start to lie. He's lying, everybody.
Yeah. Cut the shit, Bob.
So I'm
Bob
like,
has a warrant.
Yeah, right. Right. So I'm like, dog, I don't have no bread. Can I just pay 30? He was like, where you from? I said, I'm from Jersey. He said, no, where you from? I said, I'm Nigerian. He said, your parents are immigrants? I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll give it to you for 30. And then you have to come, if you want food, you have to come eat with my kids in the morning before everybody else eats. So you have to get up early, and you can get like some pancakes and stuff, so you don't have to pay for it when we put it out. I said, okay, thank you, bro. So he puts it, he lets me stay there. So now it's 3-4 weeks that I'm waiting. Oh, sorry. I filmed the next day. I had to put myself on tape. And didn't even know if at that particular time if they'll take my tape or nothing, but I had to take the tape and wait in LA. Mm-hmm. So now, my fault, yo.
Okay. That's Bob.
Crazy.
Pancakes are ready.
Walk my kids to school.
Right. So
pay off this debt.
Right. No, I ended up giving them $10,000.
I love that.
When I got my deal, I ended up giving him $10,000.
Cole has a similar story in Queens.
Oh, that's lit.
Yeah.
Muhammad, who took care of him, then came back, and now Muhammad's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cole said have it.
Wow. Yeah. So I was like, came back and gave him $10,000. But the next day I put myself on tape, and I didn't know I had to wait for them to call me back. So now I'm waiting 2-3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. In that time span, I'm creating music, and I'll come back to that. But in that time span, I'm creating music with some producers. But in those 2 weeks, bro.
There's some language in this story, so don't get mad at me about the language. I'm telling you beforehand, there's a little bit of language in this story, all right? We're all adults. All right? We can discern through it. We're all adults, but there is a little bit of language, all right? That's your warning.
Money's going, food is going at this particular time. So I'm broke. It's a 200 square foot room, roach, rat, like it's bad. I get the call, they want me to come in. And when I go in, literally, it's me and Lakeith Stanfield. So we're literally like, what's up, bro? What's up, man? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I cannot lose. I'm down to $800, bro. Right. Like, I got nothing. And in a way, I have too much pride and competitive to go back and be like, Pops, you
got to dig into that.
You know, I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I'm like, I don't care who you are, where you from, what you got going. This is mine, bro. Yeah. Like, this is mine, bro. And it was the energy of that, you know, and he's incredible. He's an incredible actor. But he was like, yeah, man, you know, he's like, yo, you ready, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready, bro. I'm ready, bro.
Yeah,
I was like,
don't know, fam.
I was like, yeah.
Sleeping with Bob's
I'm
kids.
I'm starving right now.
Like, I'm starving.
And I didn't get up early to get the early pancakes.
You know what I'm saying? I missed that today because I got to pay for the, I'm like, yo, I'm hungry, dog. Literally hungry, dog. Like,
And then I go in and the rest is history. But when I booked the job, the first thing she tells me is, I compared your tape because I remember seeing you for 2 years ago. When you sent your tape in, I compared all the 3,000 people that auditioned to your tape and made sure that if they can match that. And it became down to you and Lakeith. I had to see them in real life to see who I'd give it to. And that was that. So I tell artists and actors and people all the time, two lessons, like, and I still live by that today. You never know who's watching, and you never know, and you have to invest in yourself.
Right. Yeah.
You have to. Nobody's gonna do it for you. Like, so
we hear these stories about people.
Find Bob.
Yeah.
Find Bob.
Yeah.
No,
And
good
Find
to know
Bob.
Bob.
Yeah.
We always hear stories about people that just pick up and move to California,
Right.
and pursuing their dreams of acting and things like that.
Right.
But sometimes you be like, man, he might be embellishing, he might be adding,
Right.
putting sauce on it. Like Jamie Foxx said, he went from Texas to California with like $50 or something. I was like,
Right.
Jamie, was it really $50?
No.
But hearing your story,
Puff also
Yeah.
said he woke up with 92 roaches on his face.
yeah, we like, Puff,
Yeah,
you ain't
yeah.
never had your pocket money, man. We know you ain't had no roaches on your face.
Yeah.
But hearing your story,
Yeah.
it's like, damn, so it really is a thing where you in this position of, my back is against the wall, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to go back home and, my parents gonna look at me like,
Yeah.
let you try this thing.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Here you are, you back.
Yeah.
You using that in that moment to feel like, yo, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot lose
I can't.
this position.
And there's something about the human mind when you're one anointed, when you're driven and you're talented, that when you position your mind to say, yo, I'm not gonna fail,
Right.
there's no other option.
Mm.
And I don't think enough people tap into that
Mhm.
because we rely on so many other factors and make so many other excuses for things.
Mhm.
But when you say all I got is me in this moment and you dig deep, you can't fail.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. But
Yeah.
when I knew that there was a blessing on the other side of being afraid,
Right.
so I attacked it head on, and that's what it was.
So I'll add on to that of what he's saying. I don't think enough people tap into, because he said, when you realize that all you have is me in that situation, I don't think enough of us tap into the fact that God is on our side. I don't think enough people tap into the reality that the God of this universe is on our side and that he is for us. So who can be against us? Assuming that we're operating and that we're pursuing things that align with his will, right? Who can be against us if God is for us? I don't think enough of us really tap into that. I also like what he said. He said, you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. Because he was doing a completely different show. And then that show ended. And there was like a 2-year break between that show and the show that he got after that. And during that time, he was essentially going broke. But the producer of the show that hired him next 2 years later was actually watching the original show that he was on, which I think is very interesting when he said, you never know who's watching. And that's even more true for us as believers. You never know who's watching. And even from the standpoint of how we conduct ourselves, how we carry ourselves, how we contribute to society just as human beings, the type of neighbors that we are, the type of, integrity that we have in our work and our business, the type of clients that we are when we receive services from other people in our community, you never know who's watching. You never know who may or may not be inspired by your walk with God. You never know if whatever you're doing in that moment is going to plant that seed that's going to get them more interested and more curious about who Jesus is. Or on the flip side, you never know if in that moment of you doing whatever you're doing, if that's going to be a contributing factor to why they view God in a negative light, because you're not being the proper representative of Christ in that moment. You never know who's watching. On the other side of that, from an opportunity standpoint, if you're in a position right now that might seem insignificant, You never know who's watching. You never know what God is orchestrating behind the scenes for your good. You might think that you're in a position that is insignificant, but you might be perfectly positioned according to God's will, that if you just do what you're supposed to do with your maximum effort in that position, you will be elevated. And when God opens that door, no man can close it. No man can close it. I thought that was very interesting. I like what he said in the first clip when he was talking about dying to his flesh. And this is a newer clip. This clip right here is a newer clip that we watched. So I'm assuming that he's a little more spiritually mature at this point. At any rate, I made a video about Tiana Taylor. I think it was maybe a week ago or something like that. And a lot of people in the comments, I guess y'all want me to go in on people more. You want me to condemn people more. You want me to rebuke people more. Because you were saying yo, but Nick, you can't serve two masters. You can't say that you love God in this way and you want to, walk according to his ways, but then at the same time, be in the world and be doing all this type of stuff. And I agree with that 1,000%. I agree with that, right? I agree with that. But at the same time, there are people who are just getting introduced, are on the very early stages of their walk with God, who are not as spiritually mature as they will be. And I think we have to be able to identify that and discern that. And we have to be able to help those individuals understand the importance of prioritizing Jesus above anything else in their life. The importance of truly making Jesus the Lord of their life. We have to help them understand that. Because we are in this world. We battle, we struggle. We war against this flesh. We all went through the same stuff. We all are tempted in whatever way that you're tempted. We're all tempted. So I think there is a time to call people out. There's a time to rebuke people. But then I also think there's a time to recognize yo, this is just a baby in Christ. You know what I'm saying? And we need to be there to help build this person up so that they continue down this path. And I think that's what we're lacking a lot right now is seeing somebody, identifying where they are and helping build them up so that they can continue down that path, as opposed to expecting that they're going to do everything perfectly or they're going to do everything how we would do it at this current point in our spiritual maturity. Anywho, I thought that was an interesting video.